Victor Nyambala is the Operations Manager for the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, and he joins us live now from the Ukrainian capital of Kiev. Victor, welcome. Thanks for being with us. So, hearing some fairly alarming accounts there in the previous story from Ukrainians experiencing this latest round of attacks from Russia, what have these latest attacks on critical infrastructure, how have they affected people?
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, you can genuinely see that people are very exhausted. I spoke to a couple of my colleagues today in the morning just to check on them. Some of them do not have central heating. There's no gas for cooking. It's a race for survival, and you can see that businesses are severely affected. So if you look around, there's a lot of tension within the environment. And honestly, it's a very tough moment, especially as temperatures are dropping. We can see that this winter is not going to be your usual winter. It's going to be a very tough winter.
Victor, as you say, heading into another winter, this war, how are people coping, especially with those targets by Russia on the Ukrainian energy sector? I mean, how badly are those power cuts and heating outages affecting people?
To understand the scale of the attacks, first 7 months of this year, we've seen up to 1,200 attacks on energy infrastructure. That's as much as what we had in 2024. The impact is a ripple effect that affects, from a macroeconomic perspective, factories which produce. They have to let go of people, so people are losing their jobs. When people lose their jobs, they don't have enough money for food or medicine. And essentially, you can see on a microeconomic level, very basic things like being able to refrigerate your food or even buy medicine. And these are the tough decisions we see Ukrainians having to make on a day-to-day basis. We also did a survey, and out of the survey, we could see that about 60% of the people in last spring mentioned that they have no more savings left. 50% of them also mentioned that they're lacking basics like clean water, being able to heat their homes, or even buy very basic medicines for their chronic illnesses.
Victor, it's coming up to almost 4 years of war now for the Ukrainian people, tens of thousands killed and injured. What's the psychological impact of living through this for so long?
It's very painful, to be honest, and particularly Red Cross usually provides mental health and psychosocial support across the country, but the needs are massive. We just cannot cover the entirety of the scale. And for this reason, we are really calling upon various governments and also donors to support our initiatives, particularly in this winter. I foresee the Ukrainian Red Cross and also other partner organizations in Ukraine are really gearing up to provide support during winter. We have some support which is already ongoing. For example, cash assistance to enable people be able to meet very basic needs, to buy food, to heat their homes, to buy medicines. We are also providing, for example, equipment that will give them backup in terms of being able to either electrify their homes or to have lighting, or even to do something as basic as charging their phones. So the needs are very massive, and you can tell that there's a difference. And given the level of psychological impact that we see from these attacks, to know that there's an agency such as Red Cross that can stand and support most of the people who are affected, this really makes a big difference.
What are some of the regions, Victor, that are most severely affected by this in Ukraine?
So we know about the frontline regions, some of them including Sumy, Donetsk, Kharkiv. There's a couple of regions which are predominantly towards the east. But as you know, at the start of this broadcast, you mentioned that more than 400 both drones as well as missiles were sent. They were not targeting very specific regions. They were sent across Ukraine. So you cannot narrow down the impact on very specific regions. all areas of Ukraine are affected.
And Victor, you mentioned just the immense work that the Red Cross and Red Crescent has been doing, to help people with such basic necessities. You mentioned not only heating and food, but just people being able to charge their phones and just live some sort of life. I mean, how much longer is Red Cross and Red Crescent able to cope without some support, as you mentioned, and how much, in terms of financial support, how much is needed from the international community?
I would say there's a huge amount of deficit in terms of the support that we still require. We are still under crisis. We need to put in much more effort and mobilize more resources to support the recovery of Ukraine in general. Billions in terms of assets, infrastructure, and livelihoods have actually been destroyed. In order for the economy to get that kick for it to recover, there's a lot that needs to be done. I cannot precisely quantify how much, but I can tell you for sure the job has just begun.
Victor Nyambala, Operations Manager for the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Thanks so much for your time with us.